Chapter 1590, 6 Giant Blade. Han Shanzhua was happily chatting with some good brothers, with one foot on a chair and one hand holding a big green stick. Thinking back to when I went to Shengjing, the mission that guy carried out was so tragic. A group of people ran to the bottom of the abyss to fight with those big centipedes. My goodness, one centipede was 7 or 8 kilometers long, from the east to the west of our Fonon Street, and it could go back and forth 5 or 6 times. Those guys were confused at the time, but I stepped out at the critical moment. Han Shanzhua patted his chest, pointed to the front, and said, "I say, what's there to be afraid of? Isn't it just a group of bugs?" I fried 2 dishes to go with them. Then, buddy, I took care of them in no time. Click, click. Several old friends beside him applauded. "Brother Sean, it has to be you. Really awesome. Let's just say, whether you have the strength or not, you still have to see it in practice." Han Shanzhua was very proud, but he looked disapproving, waved his hand, and said, "That's nothing, I didn't take it seriously." At this moment, the communication device placed next to him rang. Han Shanzhua looked and saw that it was Ji Changhai, the Supreme Commander of the Northeast region, who called. He frowned. "This old Ji is really inconsiderate. I'm drinking here. Why is he calling me?" He turned to a few old friends and said, "Brothers, you guys drink first, I'll go and deal with him." After Han Shanzhua finished speaking, he took the communication device and went to the next room. The remaining old friends were still there giving thumbs up. "Brother Sean is awesome. Even the Supreme Commander of our region has to look at his face." That's right, the Northeast region can be what it is today, all thanks to Brother Sean. Han Shanzhua entered the next room and immediately changed his face. "General Ji, what do you want to talk to me about?" Ji Changhai, who was called General Ji, obviously didn't understand the homophonic pun. He said in a serious tone, "Colonel, something happened in the East China Sea. I just received intelligence that it seems that creatures from the underground civilization have escaped and caused trouble for them. We must be careful. The world is not peaceful during this period." Han Shanzhua scratched his head when he heard it. "There is something going on in the East China Sea. What does it have to do with us?" "You can't say that. The 5 major regions of Huaxi country are all prosperous and all suffer together. Today is the East China Sea region. Maybe one day it will be our turn." Han Shanzhua smiled and said, "Let's talk about it then. Why are you in such a hurry? What? Are you going to let me go over to help?" As soon as he finished speaking, he suddenly felt that the brightness of the room was rising rapidly. It was obviously midnight, and it was obviously a very ordinary lighting. But he only felt that the dazzling light made the room brighter than daytime. Han Shanzhua turned back subconsciously and saw outside the window, as if a sun had risen in the northeastern wilderness. About 2 seconds after seeing the light, he heard a deafening roar in his ears, like an earthquake. Boom, boom. The ground under his feet was shaking, and everything in the room was shaking wildly. The shelf beside the wall fell to the ground, and the vase and the books Wolf Road, Sheepskin Scroll, and Weakness of Human Nature used to hold the fork fell to the ground. The leisurely expression on Han Shanzhua's face disappeared in an instant, and his eyes were serious and terrifying. "General Ji, it seems that trouble is really coming." The 3rd Wugu alien army went north along the East China Sea and landed in Fonon City in the Northeast region. Although Han Shanzhua was sloppy on weekdays, he was not vague when encountering things. He quickly changed into combat uniforms, and several buddies who drank together in the room were ready to go. They were all members of the Northeast Region Tiger Army, and they were all elite in the army. At this time, there was no trace of alcohol on their faces, only a face full of fighting spirit. Han Shanzhua strode forward and walked out of the door. "Let's go and kill those bastards who messed with the Northeast region." The moment he went out, his body suddenly turned into a black crow and soared into the sky. In Fonon City, after the alien troops from Wugu arrived, they looked at the ice and snow castle in front of them and were moved by its beauty for a while. Snow City, Fonon. This is an area that is in a cold zone all year round, so since ancient times, they have been very good at using ice and snow. The advent of the Ice Age for them just made the already cold season even colder. Fortunately, they are already familiar with how to deal with the cold season. Therefore, after the end of the world, they eliminated most of the people with poor physical fitness, and those who survived, on the contrary, adapted to everything faster than people in other regions. Survival of the fittest. This is the charm of civilization. I can't bear to destroy this beautiful city, Silver Armor said lightly. He told his men, "You don't have to kill everyone. You can keep some females and cubs as pets, and keep the city as it is. I want a pet farm." The black and white commanders behind him nodded. Yes, generals. While they were talking, the Tiger Guards had arrived. Just like other forces, these mobile forces reacted very quickly and immediately mobilized powerful firepower to attack these invaders. Unfortunately, the gap in strength was too big, and they had never faced a team of this level. The attacks of ordinary soldiers and low-level aliens had almost no effect on them. Jia seemed to be a leisurely person who enjoyed life very much. He flew over a snow castle, sat on the castle, quietly admired the beauty of the snow city, and seemed indifferent to the battle. However, just the hundreds of elite soldiers of the Fog Valley led by the black and white commanders were enough to complete the massacre of the Tiger Guards. In less than a minute, the human soldiers were like ants trampled by giants, and the number of casualties exceeded 5,000. At this time, there were flocks of crows flying in this direction in the sky. Cackle. The crow's cry was very harsh, with a strange sign of disaster. Jia looked up at the sky and saw a huge black cloud flying from the northeast. A closer look revealed that the black cloud was actually composed of large swathes of crows. They flew over the battlefield, and pieces of black feathers suddenly fell, falling on the battlefield like rain, and falling on the shoulders of those Fog Valley warriors. The Wugu warriors looked at the black feather beside them in a strange way. The next moment, the black feather turned into thick black smoke and enveloped them all. The black smoke wrapped around their whole bodies, then drilled in through the gaps in their armor, and finally drilled into every hole in their bodies. Mouth, nose, ears, eyes, and even the anus and genitals. Ah! The screams instantly spread throughout the battlefield. The heart-wrenching pain was unbearable even for the most elite Wugu warriors. Chapter 1597 Black and White Command. Seeing his men being treated like this, Jia just looked away with a little curiosity. A flock of crows flew over quickly and finally turned into a man in black combat uniform. Seeing this, the warriors of the northeast region immediately showed a relaxed smile on their faces. "It's General Luya. Great, now these invaders will have a good show to watch." As soon as Luya appeared, he immediately attracted everyone's attention, including the aliens in the Fog Valley who also noticed such a person. The guardian of mankind? Jia sat steadily on the top of the ice and snow castle, but did not make any move to get up. He glanced at the deputy general next to him, the black and white commander, and gave him a look. The black and white commander immediately understood and jumped forward. His speed was not fast, but where he walked, the frozen ground grew with sharp giant ice spikes, and the originally cold temperature became much lower at this time. The feet of a large number of tiger guards around them were quickly covered with a thick layer of frost. Before they had time to struggle, they were frozen into human-shaped ice sculptures. The black and white commander shook his hands violently, and the cold current started from his body and rushed towards Han Shanzhua. The extreme coldness made Han Shanzhua and others feel chilled to the bone, even though they were wearing cold-proof combat uniforms. Han Shanzhua's eyes had been on the high and mighty silver armor before, but now he realized that the strength of this alien in black and white armor should not be underestimated. His face became serious, and the ominous black sign on his body turned into a black mist that filled the sky. Bang! His body suddenly unfolded, and black feathers flew all over the sky. He turned into a huge crow. The black feathers on his body revealed a metallic luster, and his scarlet eyes exuded an ominous aura. This was his ability, Disaster Crow. Han Shanzhua shook his wings, and a terrifying storm swept away, dispersing the white cold wave in front of him. Quack quack dash. Han Shanzhua let out a harsh cry, and the sound waves spread in all directions. All the strange people in the mist valley within the range were quickly enveloped by a black air. They immediately felt as if their bodies were put in heavy shackles. Ordinary Mist Valley warriors could hardly move their bodies. Even the black and white commanders felt that their movements were greatly restricted. Accursed power? Han Shanzhua bound all the enemies in front of him with the power of the curse, and then his wings suddenly spread out, and a large number of wings suddenly burst out from his body, shooting at all the Mist Valley warriors in front of him, like a violent storm. The black and white commander snorted coldly. "Kill my people?" He pushed forward with both hands, and two cold currents gushed out of his hands. In an instant, the cold current touched the ground, rising up a thick high wall, blocking the sky full of black feathers. Damn, duh. Black feathers shot densely at the ice wall, turning it black in an instant. Although the ice wall was broken into pieces, it also blocked his attack and prevented Han Shanzhua from killing the elite warriors of Wugu. The black and white commander looked around. There were already more than 20 Wugu warriors who had just been killed by Han Shanzhua. In the battle between high-level aliens, it is difficult for low-level aliens to exert much influence by their own strength. Unless they are the owners of special abilities, they can play a certain role at the right time. He waved his hand. "You go deal with the others. Leave this guy to me." The blue-armored warriors nodded, then quickly scattered and killed the Tiger Army. In the battle formation, the Northeast Five Immortals, who were directly under Han Shanzhua, led a group of high-level aliens to come to meet them. 100 people against hundreds of thousands of human warriors. This battle was extremely tragic from the beginning. But the real main battlefield was not them, but the combat power of the Ypsilon level. The huge disaster crow was suspended in the air, staring at this strange man in the fog valley below. Han Shanzhua felt a little uneasy, because the guy in black and white armor in front of him had the power to compete with him. However, how should the guy who was high above the ice and snow castle deal with it? He didn't have time to think about it. At this point, he could only rely on the power of the entire Fonon city to fight the enemy. If he failed, the northeast region might be doomed. Quack. The crow's cry resounded through the world, and Han Shanzhua's curse power turned into red and black chains, entangled with the black and white commander. Sign of disasters. Chains of disasters. The black and white commander immediately used frost to block around himself, trying to break the chains. But those chains directly penetrated his defense and tied him directly. In an instant, his body became heavier. Is this the power of the curse that cannot be avoided? The black and white commander realized this, but he was not afraid at all, but crossed his arms in front of him. Suddenly, with him as the center, a terrifying cold wave broke out, sweeping in all directions. The surrounding space and all existences fell into a frozen state. The human soldiers were even frozen into popsicles, and even Han Shanzhua in midair felt the huge cold enveloping his whole body with the black and white commander as the center. A huge spherical space appeared in Fonon City. All people and things in the space were shrouded in frost. The mobility of all aliens was restricted, even the soldiers of Wugu. Frost field. Indiscriminate attack. Quack. Han Shanzhua screamed, and suddenly swooped down from the sky. His huge body, with a destructive attitude, used the sharpest beak and claws to kill the black and white commander. As an orc-type ability user, the power of curse is only an auxiliary ability. His strongest ability is to fight with his body. White cold air gushed out of the hands of the black and white commander, and large pieces of light blue ice gradually rose from the earth. Pieces of transparent ice crystals condensed and turned into a giant dragon hundreds of meters long, crashing towards Han Shanzhua. The disaster crow did not dodge, and directly hit the ice dragon with its beak. Boom! The huge ice dragon shattered, and ice crystals scattered all over the sky, and a wide range of hail fell in Fonon City. The speed of the Calamity Crow did not slow down much, and it rushed straight towards the black and white commander. Seeing this, the black and white commander pressed his hands on the ground, and the huge cold air condensed into an extremely thick shield, blocking in front of him. Boom! The Calamity Crow still broke through this layer of defense with great force, and the huge black beak, like made of black gold, had already arrived in front of the Black and White Commander. Chapter 1598: Disaster Crow vs. Frost Cold. As the guardian of the Northeast region, Han Shanzhua may look careless on weekdays, but his strength is absolutely unquestionable. Most of the Beastmen have close combat abilities that surpass ordinary Beastmen, and even because of the attributes of animals, they have many more strange abilities than the enhanced Beastmen. But an Beastman with an ability index of 18,000 points can destroy mountains with just as physical attack. The two defenses of the Black and White Commander failed, which made his expression solemn. His body quickly turned white, and the huge body of the Disaster Crow descended all of a sudden, and the bird's beak hit him. Snap! The Black and White Commander turned into an ice sculpture and was directly smashed by the Disaster Crow. But a moment later, he reappeared from the distant ice and snow world, and the white ice and snow condensed into his body. The Black and White Commander stretched out his right arm, and the cold air in the air condensed into a javelin dozens of meters long, which was firmly held in his palm. He aimed at the Disaster Crow, stretched his right arm like a longbow, and threw it fiercely at the body of the Disaster Crow. Buzz! The sound of breaking through the air was enough to shatter one's eardrums. It was so fast that it was hard to imagine that it was actually an ice and snow ability user. Facing the attack, the Disaster Crow's response was just to wave its right wing. Hua-la-la, dash. The black wings spread out like fan blades, and each fan blade was like black gold. Bang! The ice and snow javelin hit the wings of the Disaster Crow and exploded. It did not cause any damage to the body of the Disaster Crow. Oh, it's really interesting. Silver Armor supported his chin with both hands and watched everything happening on the battlefield below with interest. It was like a nobleman watching a performance in the Colosseum. The Black and White Commander stared at the Disaster Crow, and he had a basic judgment of the Disaster Crow's ability in his heart. There are two abilities that we have learned about so far. First, a curse that imposes binding force on people. Second, a strong body. So, it is not a good idea to engage in a head-on close combat. Its huge body may be a breakthrough point. The Black and White Commander looked at the Calamity Crow from head to toe and finally determined his battle plan. His body bent slightly and then rushed directly towards the Calamity Crow like a cannonball. The Calamity Crow screamed, "Come on, let me tear you apart, bastard." His claws exerted force on the ground, his wings vibrated, and a huge wave of wind and waves was raised, and the whole body took off like a rocket. The Black and White Commander raised his head and looked up at the sky. "Are you going to attack me by falling from a high altitude?" This is indeed a very clever tactic, because it is the most difficult to predict the trajectory of an attack launched from the air. The Black and White Commander is not stupid, and he has no advantage in a battle in the air. So he chose to run along the arc at a very fast speed and place, and in the process of moving, he attacked the human soldiers who were frozen into ice sculptures. If the Disaster Crow in the air wanted to delay time, every second of delay would kill more than a dozen human soldiers. Sure enough, the Disaster Crow saw through the purpose of the Black and White Commander, but he had no intention of delaying time. Quacks! A shrill whistle came from the air, and the Disaster Crow swooped down like a black arrow. Boom! The Black and White Commander reacted very quickly and dodged the attack from the sky in time, but the aftermath of the impact still shook him thousands of meters away. A huge hole was chiseled on the ground, and the Disaster Crow took off again. Just now, it was just a little short of attacking the Black and White Commander. Otherwise, even if it just touched the opponent, the Disaster Crow would have 100% confidence that it could directly destroy the opponent's body. This is the confidence of the Beastman-type ability user with a strong physique, simple and direct, plain and unpretentious. Absolute power can break all the fancy tricks. But this time, the Black and White Commander came prepared. He would not give the Calamity Crow the opportunity to launch repeated attacks from the sky. This time, he must seize the opportunity to land the Calamity Crow. The black and white commander looked at the Calamity Crow, which was about to adjust its body shape and take off again with its head stuck in the ground. He quickly stood still and took a deep breath. Quick freeze! A white cold wave gushed out of his mouth in the shape of a slender trumpet and instantly came to the front of the Calamity Crow. In just a moment, a large piece of thick frost condensed on the black wings of the Calamity Crow. The sticky wings made the Calamity Crow, which wanted to take off, fail to take off directly. What the hells? Han Shanzhua was also shocked at this time. The bone-chilling coldness made him shiver. The bigger the body, the greater the impact at this time. Quack! He flapped his wings vigorously, throwing the frost on his body to the ground. The frost flew in all directions like a sharp sword. But the time he stayed on the ground was the best time for the black and white commanders to launch an attack. Even if you are the overlord of the sky, you will become a helpless chicken after your wings are frozen by ice and snow. Next, it's time for me to attack. The black and white commander ran around the huge body of the Disaster Crow at a very fast speed, constantly launching cold current attacks. Even if the Disaster Crow can shatter the ice on its wings, it will be affected by the cold air, causing frost to condense on its body, and it will not be able to take off immediately. Damn it, can't I do anything to you if you can't fly? The Disaster Crow uttered a curse similar to Han Shanzhua's, and then he really turned into a chicken, running towards the black and white commander with his wings spread. Quack! The Disaster Crow whistled. Even if it was a chicken, the huge physical gap was still there. He flapped his wings, directly lifting a large amount of ice, snow, earth, and rocks. The surrounding buildings were directly smashed by him as weapons, turning into gravel faster than bullets to attack the black and white commander. This level of attack naturally could not cause much damage to the black and white commander and could only affect his speed. The black and white commander was not affected by this move at all. He just waved his right hand lightly in the air, and a large amount of frost froze all flying objects in the air. He circled around the Calamity Crow, and the Calamity Crow was too large to turn around in a small area. Are you trying to make me dizzy? The Calamity Crow didn't know what the other party was going to do, but he always felt that something was wrong. Chapter 1599 Burning Heaven. The black and white commander went around behind the Calamity Crow, looking at its huge back. Behind the armor, he curled his lips and sneered. Extreme freeze. The cold current gushed out of his mouth and went straight to the Calamity Crow, aiming at the tail of the Calamity Crow. The weakest part of the aliens who fight in the posture of animals is the anus. These warriors in the Fog Valley have extremely strong combat skills and rich combat experience. They know this very well. In a real life and death fight, they don't care whether your combat skills are gorgeous or not, or whether they are vulgar or not. They will only target the weakest part of the opponent and take the most effective killing means. Sure enough, a cold current poured into the body of the Calamity Crow along the only channel behind his body. The body of the Calamity Crow suddenly stiffened, and he felt that his lower body lost consciousness in an instant. The extreme cold current attacked his rectum, and then went straight to his internal organs. This is not funny, and it is extremely dangerous because no matter how strong the outside is, the internal organs are soft. If the internal organs are frozen, this blow alone can kill the Disaster Crow. This move shows how experienced the black and white commander is in combat. Even the silver armor sitting on top of the ice castle nodded with satisfaction. In a battle between top masters, any negligence is not allowed to exist. Otherwise, once a flaw is revealed, it will be easy to be killed by the opponent. Successful. Looking at the Disaster Crow, whose body was mostly frozen, the black and white commander took out a white laser weapon from his back and aimed it at his tail to make the final finishing touch. Under the invasion of the extreme cold wave, no creature's internal organs can withstand it. Death is only a matter of time. An extremely painful expression appeared on the face of the Disaster Crow. The cold wave quickly invaded his body, almost completely freezing his internal organs. It's all over. The black and white commander raised the weapon in his hand and was about to launch the final blow to the guardian of the Northeast region. At this moment, The disaster crow's body suddenly trembled violently. Quack, quack. The expression of the disaster crow was like constipation. The pain in his rectum could be imagined. He raised his neck and let out a roar that resounded through the sky. "Don't look down on me, bastard. I am Luya." In his pupils, the red evil fire suddenly burned more fiercely, and the flames became more and more steaming, and finally it turned from red to gold. The golden flames escaped from his pupils like golden juice, and then poured down from his head to his whole body. In a flash, his body was completely dyed golden. An incomparable and extremely scorching power burned violently around him. What rushed straight up to the sky was a golden flame, an extremely hot temperature. All the severe cold in this world was dispelled. Han Shanzhua's crow was a golden crow. The golden crow in mythology. The heat wave swept over, and the pupils of the black and white commander shrank suddenly. He did not expect that the enemy in front of him would suddenly have a second attribute ability, and it was a completely restrained scorching sun attribute. The golden flames swept in all directions and also enveloped the black and white commander. The extreme high temperature spread over his body, and the heat waves hit his body again and again. He subconsciously blocked his arms in front of him, but was still hit by the terrifying flames and retreated dozens of steps. At this time, the golden crow had turned around, with surging flames burning in his eyes. Anyone who was anally dug by others would probably find it difficult to stay calm. He opened his mouth, and a golden flame instantly gushed towards the black and white commander. The condensed golden flame turned into a huge pillar of fire, and like a pillar of heaven, it hit the body of the black and white commander. Scorching sun, burning sky. The black and white commander felt a huge pressure, and he tried his best to activate his ice power. The power of rapid freezing was pushed to the extreme, but the restraint of the attributes between the two, as well as the difference in the level of supernatural power, made it impossible for him to completely offset the lethality of this attack. In just a moment, he was submerged by the golden flames, and the armor on his body was shattered. Just when Jinwoo was about to take advantage of the victory and directly kill the black and white commander in front of him, a figure quietly appeared between him and the black and white commander. Injia, who had been watching the show above the ice and snow castle, finally made a move. He stood in midair, holding a weapon in his right hand that was larger than his body, and used that weapon to block the fierce burning sky flames. It was an extremely strange weapon, which seemed to be a huge crescent scimitar, but there were many twisted snake-shaped protrusions on the blade. It was sharp, but heavy like a huge steel ring. It was hard to imagine that someone would use this weapon with one hand. But Injia held this weird weapon, which we tentatively called a scimitar, and blocked all the attacks of Jinwoo head-on. After the flames of the golden crow dissipated, he saw that the silver-armored enemy in front of him had blocked his attack with just a knife, and his eyes became serious. The black and white commander said to the silver armor with a guilty face in mysterious language, "General, I am incompetent." The silver armor said in a low voice, "It's none of your business. This guy is really strong, and he deserves to be the guardian of the human race. You go and take care of the others. Leave this to me." The black and white commanders nodded, and then quickly evacuated the battlefield. Seeing this, Jinwoo's heart suddenly sank. The other side actually had 2 Epsilon-level aliens, and it seemed that this silver armor was even more difficult to deal with. But how could he split himself into 2 places? Now, let alone protecting the Northeast region, even his own survival has become a big problem. The Northeast region does not have space-based weapons like the East China Sea region or the Ocean Fleet. They only have the death of love in their hands, but that is a thing that will kill both parties, and they will not use it unless they are in desperate situations. He was extremely anxious in his heart, and he had to let out a sharp roar, carrying an extremely terrifying golden flame wave and rushing towards silver armor. At this point, the only way to go is to fight desperately. Seeing this, silver armor slightly raised the corners of his mouth. Oh! Facing the terrifying flame wave, he did not dodge or evade, but simply raised the huge scimitar in his hand, and then rushed towards Jinwoo. Bang! The golden light shot up into the sky, so bright that no one could see clearly what happened in the middle. At the moment when the two crossed each other, golden feathers flew all over the sky, and one of the wings of the golden crow was cut off. It fell to the ground and turned into Han Shanzhua's arm. Chapter 1600 Reinforcement. Jinwoo fell heavily to the ground. The damaged part of his wings had dried up. The blood could not flow out and was evaporated. This also happened to block his wounds so he would not bleed to death. Jinwoo gasped for air, and the despair in his heart became stronger. He guessed that Injia would be difficult to deal with, but he never thought that Injia's strength would exceed his by so much. It was completely not the same level. The opponent was definitely above the Black Chariot level. In fact, it was not just 20,000 points, but higher. It was so high that he had no power to fight back.
Quack.
When he was extremely desperate, he was extremely angry. Jinwoo was completely crazy at this time and roared to the sky. "Old Ji, send out the god of death of love for me. I can't stand it anymore." Jinwoo was indeed crazy. He actually planned to die with the opponent. At this time, in the command center, many senior executives were surrounding Ji Chonghai. They all stared at Ji Chonghai with anxious faces. "Ji Shuai, let's evacuate. We can't resist the enemy this time." Ji Chonghai had a ferocious face, and he slammed the table. "Fuck you, shut up. Where can we escape to? If the Northeast region is lost, we will all die. I don't want to be a second-generation rich man with the surname Zhang. At worst, we will fight them. Open the launch chamber of the god of love death for me, or we will die together." He gave an order, and no matter how the senior officials around him begged, Ji Chonghai ignored them. The military has opened the launch chamber of the god of love death, and the movement here can be sensed by all regions of the world at the same time. For a time, all countries in the world were alarmed, but most countries knew that an attack by a mysterious civilization had occurred here. The reactions of various countries were different. Some were surprised, some were shocked, and some were panicked. However, the surrounding countries could not come to rescue in time. They could only choose to wait and see. Not to mention them, even the nearest Shengjing district had to tighten the battle circle because of the possibility of Shengjing being attacked, forming a defense circle centered on Shengjing City. Injia turned around and looked at Jinwoo. A huge sky-burning flame was heading straight for him. Boom! The flames were surging as if they were going to burn down Fengtian City. Even if they were thousands of meters away, the surface of the skin would feel a stinging sensation of burning. But facing such an attack, Injia did not react at all, but simply raised the huge scimitar in his hand and chopped it down.
Ha!
His sword set off a terrifying storm, without the aftermath of superpowers, but only because of the excessive power and the speed of the sword. This sword directly split the flames that attacked him in half. The gap in strength was so great that it made people despair. Even Han Shanzhua's body, which was tempered by thousands of hammers, and even his Jinwoo body, which was almost as hard as adamantium, could not stop the light sword of the silver-armored alien in front of him. The other party is an extremely enhanced alien who can destroy everything with his physique alone. The black and white commanders joined the cleanup of the Tiger Guards. Among the 5 northeastern immortals, Lu Xian and Hui Xian died in battle. The top aliens in the northeast region had no power to fight back in front of this veteran Epsilon. Quack! Crystal tears flowed from the corners of Jinwoo's eyes, and his heart was completely desperate. In the face of the huge gap in strength, they had no power to fight back. I am afraid that the northeast region will completely disappear from the territory of Huaxiu today. And after they are destroyed, can other regions still exist? If Jinwoo wants to escape at this time, he will definitely not be able to catch up with the speed of the enhanced silver-armored alien in front of him. He can also condense flames into wings with one wing and fly to the sky. However, Han Shanzhua would rather die here than be a coward who is scolded for his whole life. Die. All of you die. Ji Chonghai, what are you waiting for? Han Shanzhua's voice shook the entire Fengtian city, and of course it reached Ji Chonghai's ears. The key in his hand had been inserted into the control box, and the switch was turned on. The index finger of his right hand was placed above the launch button, trembling and sweating, not knowing whether he should really press it.
Boom. Boom. Boom.
Some people who wanted to escape by plane were shot down by the Qingjia warriors shortly after the plane took off. Without the protection of powerful aliens, it would be a very stupid thing to escape simply by relying on modern transportation. Ha ha ha! Jinwoo's eyes were filled with hot tears. He burst out the most powerful flame in his life, and his body turned into a huge golden fireball, like a huge sun. He illuminated the entire Fengtian city in the air, and the wings condensed by the flames flapped, and then he slammed down on Injia. Injia's expression finally showed a little bit of relaxation. Even though he was much stronger than Han Shanzhua, he dared not be careless in the face of the opponent's life-and-death attack. He stood still and took a deep breath. The sound of wind blew around him, and his chest and abdomen swelled up a lot. Then he suddenly spit out a turbulent airflow towards the golden fireball in front of him. The storm rushed out of his mouth. The layers of golden flames wrapped around Jinwoo were peeled off like outer clothes after being hit by the storm, and soon the seriously injured body of Jinwoo was exposed. When Jinwoo rushed to the front, there was little flame left on his body. Injia rushed up without saying a word, picked up the knife and rushed forward, aiming at Han Shanzhua's neck and slashed it. Puff! A huge head fell to the ground in an instant, and Jinwoo's neck was exposed, and blood gushed out crazily. Boom! His huge body also fell directly to the ground. Injia just glanced at him lightly, shook his head boredly, and then calmly carried the long knife and walked away. It seems that he has no interest in killing ordinary people. Everything that follows can be left to his men. Or maybe it was because he didn't dare to attack for too long, lest he attract the attention of some powerful existence. In the command room, Ji Changhai's face was pale at this time. In desperation, his right hand was about to press the launch button of the God of Love. At this moment, the door of the command room was suddenly opened. A young officer came over and said to everyone, "Don't panic, the National Defense Army, come to support." Hearing this, Ji Changhai and other senior officials immediately turned their heads and looked over. National Defense Army?